Yo, what's up, everyone? Welcome to episode 72 of the Uncommon Commentators. I'm the boy Antoine Willis, and this is my man Garrett. How you doing, Garrett? You good, bro? Just about to talk these hoops, as always, with the play-in tournament, and some All NBA discussions. But always love hearing how your day was first. How'd it go, bro? Did you have a decent Thursday, or how was it?
Yeah, everything's been good, all productive and yeah, ready
Mm.
to, get into today's episode. I know that there's a lot of things going on in the NBA with the play-in tournament and of course teams are officially getting ready for the playoffs, so ready to dive into it.
Yeah, man. One of the first things I did want to discuss, though, I know you, of course, you're my friend first, and I know you recently just met Dyson Daniels, and how was that, man? I actually want to ask you about that. I
Yeah,
haven't seen you since you got to meet him. You went to his meet and greet
yeah.
and stuff. So, how was that when you saw him in person, and how was he when you got to talk to him?
Yeah, he was well when I went um because the event was from 2 to 5, and I think I got there. I think a little close to 3, I think. But by that time, because there was a long line when he came at 2 o'clock. But when I came, everybody was almost gone for the most part. There were still some fans signing, getting autographs and stuff. But long story short, yeah, he's a really cool guy. Asking if I was from Atlanta, and of course I had to tell him like, hey, I hope you win the Defensive Player of the Year award. So he said no doubt, for sure. But yeah, definitely check his clothing line out. Vusetti, that is VOUSETI. And of
Hmm.
course you can follow him on Instagram. Yeah, have it on his page. But yeah, he's a really cool guy. He's very friendly, and you definitely check out his clothing line. But yeah, a lot of people engaged with my posts with him when I got some pictures with him. A lot of people just love the interaction that I had with them and stuff and with other fans. But yeah, Dyson, he's a really cool guy. And like I said, I hope he wins the Defensive Player of the Year award. So yeah, it was definitely a lot of fun though. So yeah, it
When
was
you
cool.
when you went, was it like a super long line, out the door or anything like that? Given how popular he's become this year and stuff like that, how was it?
Nah, so like when I saw the video that they posted on his page, I saw that there was a long line right at 2 o'clock. But
Okay.
then when I got there, the line was out. So I like I said, I think I got there like I said around 3 o'clock. So the line was already died down when I got there. So I didn't have to wait in line to see him and get his autograph. I was able to literally just walk right into the venue and talk to him for a little bit and sign to get his autograph too. And because it took place at Wish ATL, which is located in 5 Points, so it's a
Okay.
small venue clothing line store. It's really cool actually. They have like a downstairs where people can also look for shoes if they're looking for something like that, and
Wow.
upstairs all the clothes and all that kind of stuff. But he had his clothing line section with all the stuff that he had. I ended up getting one of his jerseys while I was there, but he was just out there, hanging around, with everybody that was in there shopping too. So it wasn't, like a player signing type of thing where you just had to
Mhm.
get up and just leave. He was hanging out with everybody that was there. So that was also cool just to, hang out with them and stuff. But yeah, it was definitely cool.
Mhm.
And I only found out like last minute. I think it was actually the day before that I found out. So I didn't know he had a pop up event. So that's why I was like, oh, I'm definitely gonna go to this for sure. But yeah, it was
Mhm.
definitely a cool time. So yeah, he's a real cool dude.
No, that's awesome, man. I'm glad I got to pick your brain about that. It's pretty funny. Dude, I met him. So, I was working a side hustle at a Target about a year ago. Back, yeah, last September. That was when he had first signed to the team. And I knew who he was because I watched him in the Olympics and stuff like that. But of course, just watching the defensive highlights, just seeing, oh man, he's finally here. We got a new shooting guard next to Trey. That's before he was officially the starting shooting guard and all that. And I was working and I came off my lunch break, and like I don't know what it was. For some reason, like I like to this day, I was like, nah. Like I told myself, there's an NBA player here, because for those of you who don't know, like there's a Target in Atlantic Station in Atlanta,
Right.
Georgia, and the Overtime Elite Arena is in that area and all
Hmm.
that. And I met
Yes.
him over there. I guess he was there to like say what's up to some people, and like there was like luxury apartments over there because he was moving in, because I saw he had a lot of stuff. And when I met him, he was just super super duper nice. Even off the like the 10 seconds I got to even talk to him, because I just published a piece about him because we had just traded for him and all that. So it was pretty crazy to see how nice he was. And like when you see how tall he is in person, I get he's 6'7". He's not like a 7 footer, but he's a long 6'7". When you see him in person,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
absolutely, for sure. But yeah, speaking of Dyson Daniels, though, we can go ahead and get started with the play-in tournament. Dyson Daniels, the starting shooting guard of the Hawks. Obviously, we saw the Hawks, our Atlanta Hawks, unfortunately. They lost to the Orlando Magic 120-95. And
Hmm.
again, it's my first time talking to you since that loss took place. So I would love to have your input on what happened that night.
Yeah. I was only able to watch pretty much half of the game, but based on what I saw, and of course when you look at the stat sheet, I think it was just I think for me, I honestly would say I think we didn't come prepared for that game. Now, I would say there were some stretches where okay, it seems like we're back in the game where we could potentially take the lead, but it would just seem like once we cut into the because we were down by at the very least. I
Three
know it's more,
points.
but down at least by 20. So it would just seem like okay, we were down 20, and then when we were cutting our way, back into the game, cutting into the lead, to the
Mhm.
deficit rather, then it's where Orlando was able to go on to another run where just like okay, the game is out of reach, and but really to add more context, they were the more physical team. They were the more
Absolutely.
aggressive team. They were the team that wanted it more. I know that some people complain about the refs, but I don't really factor into that. Yes, we could say that there were some bad calls because obviously you and I both know Trey got ejected because of some of the officiating took place into the game, but like I said, that's just part of the game. I don't really include that, but like I said, I think it's just the fact of the matter is that we just weren't prepared. I think that Orlando, they were the more physical team. They wanted it more. Now I give us the benefit of the doubt to an extent that we were on the road, and we all know teams play at home better. The crowd was getting into it, so that may have factored into it a little bit, but overall we just weren't as physical as we should have been because when you look at the whole team, only two players really showed up to work. I mean everybody else, I mean it just didn't seem like we had it, but now at least we get another crack at it tomorrow where we do face Miami, and at least we'll be home for this game, but we all know is do or die for this one. Either we're going to make the playoffs or we're not. But yeah, it was an ugly loss, and I was hoping that we would have showed better effort. But like I said, I think it just came down to the fact that we just when and really I don't think we made any adjustments at halftime, and that may have been caused an issue. But like I said, I think I'm confident that we can beat Miami. But as I was telling fans earlier today, that we have to be sharp or even more sharp in this game because of the fact that Miami is one of the most disciplined teams that I have seen due to the fact
Mhm.
that they always come prepared. Eric Spoelstra, the head coach, he always gets his troops prepared. Um, and they always have an assignment for each player, and they always have their players ready for each game. So I think that for Miami, just knowing that their defensive identity is always very hard to overcome because they're so good at it. So that's why I say for guys like Trey and even for the rest of the guys, offensively, they have to be constantly move the ball. They can't let the offense get stagnant because Miami, they're going to take advantage of those type of things. So, we just have to be more prepared for this game for sure. And if not, then I don't think our chances of making the playoffs are very high at this point.
Yeah, not at all, man. And like it was like the loss to me was absolutely devastating, to be quite frank. Like just seeing how they had clawed back to like it was about they were trailing 71-68 at one point after trailing by 20, like how you said. So to see them actually
Right,
put
right,
in the effort and actually show that they could actually claw back like that.
right.
Just to have the loss blow up in their face like that, it really just in like honestly to see Trey get ejected like that, and he came out and gave
Yeah,
some reasoning behind that. He did say that sometimes he'll get frustrated and he'll act on behalf of his teammates if he feels like his teammates aren't getting the just calls that they should. I did want to piggyback off what you did say about the Dyson Daniels things, like not Dyson Daniels things, about the referee call, because there was a play where Dyson got hit and it was such a late whistle. Like it was
right.
blatant, it was blatantly late. Like it was disgustingly late.
Yeah,
And even like with some of the calls that Orlando was getting, because also a good point that Trey had, he came out and he said two of his teammates got injured when they faced the Magic anyway, and we know that Jonathan Isaac did end up injuring Vit Krejci on a fast break when they did play
yeah,
each other, so we
yeah,
know how aggressive both teams can play against one another.
yeah.
Or at least rather Orlando. But I do agree with what you said. I feel like Atlanta, they weren't really prepared for the physicality that Orlando was going to bring. I mean, like the Hawks weren't they just weren't prepared for it, to be honest. And getting Trey out of his game that early, like you saw, like he was fumbling the ball. They just made him super uncomfortable. He was making some ridiculous turnovers out there. Just really couldn't get a shot off, unfortunately. And it got to the point where he really had to, I don't want to say foul bait or anything like that, but it got to the point where he was really like, that's this main way of he was getting to the line. He shot 8 of 21 on the game, finishing with 28 points. So,
Mhm.
either way, I mean, like you said, they do have another chance at home against Miami. Miami did defeat the Chicago Bulls. They did in their season. Tyler Hero had 38 points. He's actually been playing pretty incredible the last 10 games. So the Hawks and the Heat did split the season series 2-2 when they faced each other in the regular season. So that alone should let you know how competitive it is going to be. For me, it's just I think Atlanta can't psych themselves out. They just have to go in and play like it's any other game. Obviously, Dyson, he didn't have a steal last game, or like the stat was, it was his first game since like December 11th, not having 3 or more steals, and that really lets you know how good Orlando did. They were taking care of the ball. Anytime they penetrated, like they really got to the rim, and the offensive rebounds from Wendell Carter Jr. were just like devastating. He really did brutalize Onyeka Okongwu down low. And it kind of reminded me of a conversation me and you had when you did mention bless me, when you did mention that Onyeka's shortcomings being his height, regardless of some of the stats that Onyeka might put up here and there. His height at 6'9" can only take him so far. And we honestly saw that on Tuesday night with the way Wendell Carter Jr. was getting. I think he had like 5 offensive rebounds. It was an absurd number. And yeah, but I mean, at the end of the day, like we'll just see what the Hawks do. I'm pretty sure many people are picking the Heat going into the game on Friday, just seeing how they looked against Chicago. And it's especially with Tyler Hero like becoming an all-star this year, really turning a corner in the way that he has. But even reacting to the rest of the Eastern Conference play-in, like we did say, the Hawks must face the Heat, so therefore the Bulls season is over. Only saying shout out to Jay because obviously he's a Bulls fan, and he's actually producing the show
Sorry, Jay,
tonight.
but we love you, bro.
Most definitely. And yeah, I mean they got sent home. But like either way, like they do have some bright spots to look forward to next season with Chicago. I really like Josh Giddey in his new role with the Bulls. I think it's really given him new life in a point guard role, really letting him take over as the primary ball handler versus when Oklahoma, where it's so many hands in the pot, he can really just take over at the point guard position in Chicago and really run the offense. We know he's a triple double threat. So I do think Chicago has a lot to look forward to. with Kobe White, in all the pieces that they do have. But talking about the Heat, of course, like we did say, they did defeat Chicago, and they've been looking good, man. Like I did say, like Tyler Hero's been playing good, but so is Bam. You know, got to show Bam some love too. Um, Around this time, he normally will pick his game up, and even like last game, he had 15 points and 12 rebounds. And Khalil Ware, their rookie, is also playing pretty good. He had 6 points and 9 rebounds, but it's more so about his impact down low with his size. So we got to see how the Hawks are going to deal with that front court. That is going to give them some issues. I'm not going to lie. Especially like how Quinn Snyder's, like some of his rotations have been pretty suspect lately with the front court, you know, using George Niang and Dominic Barlow at the same time and stuff like that. I think at this point, the Hawks are likely going to be the underdogs walking in on Friday, regardless of their home advantage and all of that. They really got to be prepared for the length of the Heat with Andrew Wiggins, with Davion Mitchell. Regardless, you know, Trey likes big games. And like I said, they did split the season series 2-2. But how do you feel about the Hawks versus the Heat matchup? Like, of course, you know, we're picking the Hawks all day. But what do you think, like, is the biggest X factor going into the play-in tournament game for the Hawks, and seeing how if they lose, the season is over?
Well, I do want to add this too, and I'm pretty sure the team itself probably isn't, having a high emphasis on this, but I'm pretty sure to an extent, at least Landry Fields and Quinn Snyder may have said a word about it. But since the Kings have lost in the play-in, at the very least, the Hawks would need to beat Miami in order for that the Kings pick to convey, at least having a 90 to 95% chance of that conveying. So, of course, that's going to be important as far as this roster to continue to build out
Mhm.
into the vision that the front office and of course, coaching staff is, envisioning for this team. Just add that there. But no, it goes back to what I said before, that the Hawks, they have to be sharp. And I'm not
Yep.
saying that they have to be perfect, but I'm just saying they have to be on point with on both ends of the floor, because even though that Miami, they are a less talented team compared to the roster that they had that we've seen in a few years back, or even the roster that they had when they went to the finals a couple seasons
Finals.
ago, where they had Jimmy Butler, Kyle Lowry, Caleb Martin, Gabe Bisson, all those guys. But Miami, like I said, they're still one of those teams that plays very hard, and no matter what player that they have, that's what they're going to do. They are a team that's going to fight until the final buzzer. So, and and like I said, Eric Spoelstra, he's done such a tremendous job of coaching his team. He's a guy that's always going to get his guys prepared. So it's just where we have to be up to par with our offense. We can't we cannot allow to turn the ball over multiple times. I know that we're going to make some mistakes here and there, but that's the whole thing that I'm saying, is that offensively the ball has to move. Everybody has to know their assignments, and we can't get caught slacking, because, like I said, Miami, they're so good at catching those things, and they will make you pay for it. And then, of course, we have to stay connected defensively, because they have a lot of guys that can play make, and especially for Bam Adebayo, we all know what he can do in that regard. So like I said, I think, and to be honest with you, after we lost to Orlando, I said, look, I don't want to see neither Miami or Chicago in the play-in, because we've all seen what Chicago has done to us in the play-in last year, and we know that when it comes to Miami, we know how they are, because they're not a stranger to us. So they've beaten us in the playoffs before. So that's the only thing that I'm hoping now. I kind of will say that Miami, I'm willing to bet that they are going to try to go after Zachary Shea and Dyson Daniels, because this is the first time that these guys are playing heavy minutes as a starter. This is technically their, well, I should say that this is their um first time playing in a playoff atmosphere type of game as a starter. So of course this is a new environment for those guys. So I think
Mhm.
Miami, they're going to try to attack those guys first. I'm thinking that's what they're going to do. But we never know. So I'm just hoping that for us to play at home, and of course the crowd is going to be there. I know that's going to give this team a lot of juice. But like I said, we have to be sharp and just be ready to play. I'm hoping that some of the things um, that we took in Orlando. I'm hoping that we can take some of that stuff and correct some of those issues heading into tomorrow's game. So, like I said, being physical is definitely a must. We have to be physical with this Miami Heat team. So, I'm hoping that Coach Quinn Snyder and his staff has addressed that to the team and everything else that comes along with it. So, I'm liking our chances, but like I said, we have to execute, and if we can do that, then we'll be in good shape.
I agree, man. I like how you said the word execute. If the shots fall, I think they win. Personally, I think that's all that need to happen against the Magic. They just went cold at one point, and Orlando stayed hot, and they blew the doors off them, and that's all that occurred. I think they really just the shots gotta fall. That's it. Like even with Trae Young, of course, the biggest thing about his game, he has to rely on his jump shot to really get his magic going like that, to really get his defensive gravity. He can try to drive in all day being 6'1", that can only go so far, of course. And one thing I did want to say, the Magic had held the Hawks to 0 fast break points in the first half, with like 3 minutes left when they faced the Hawks. The Magic did so. That's one thing just like the Hawks excel at. Obviously, they like getting out on the break with their speed and agility with this roster. But I think the Heat are going to really try to stifle that with their physicality, similar to the Magic. But I do agree with you, though. I do like our chances, absolutely. I don't know about you, but I'm picking the Celtics to beat the Magic in no more than 5 games. 5 games. I give it 5 games. I
Yeah,
don't think Orlando takes them 6. I don't think they take them 7. I think they're going to go in
yeah, that's
there.
fair. Hmm.
I think the Magic could probably take one game 3 at home. I think the Boston takes those first 2 in TD Garden 100%. I'd be shocked if Orlando takes one of the first 2 games. Um, I'd be shocked. Not hating on Orlando, of course, not being biased or anything of that nature. Even though the Celtics, they kind of struggled here and there a little bit, they still finished the season winning 61 games. So I still think they're cut from that cloth 100%. And I think the Celtics are going to easily blow the doors off them as well. And I'm taking Hawks all day tomorrow. You already know I'm picking 100%. Trey likes these games. If we had Jalen Johnson, obviously I'd be
Of
extremely
course, yeah,
confident,
yeah,
extremely confident in our chances to get it done tomorrow night.
yeah.
But either way, we'll see how it goes. But moving on to the Western Conference play-in, of course. It was pretty funny what happened. I saw a funny tweet where because we just got done talking about Chicago. I saw a tweet where some dude said Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan went out west just to lose in the play-in tournament again.
Yeah, I mean, hey, that's I mean, that's
Hey,
pretty much the
that shit
storyline.
funny
So
as hell.
it's accurate.
Yo, that shit. That's exactly what happened to them. Oh my god.
That's literally the storyline. I mean, no lies were
Oh
told.
my god.
That's the funny part. I mean, they both left Chicago to be teammates again in Sacramento, and nothing changed, bro. So
It's unfortunate, but hey, for Golden State though, obviously we did see it was their first time ever making it out. Gotta react to that first, I feel. Of course, we did see the Mavericks lose, beat the Kings, I mean. But first, I did want to talk about Golden State. They did beat the Grizzlies, and again, like I did say, it was their first time ever making it out the play-in. I think this is obviously because of playoff Jimmy. He played pretty good in the game, if I do say so myself. But if you didn't get to watch the game, it's all good. How do you think Golden State does? They go straight into the playoffs now. They're facing Houston. So how do you feel about Golden State winning their first ever play-in tournament game? And what do you think their chances are versus Houston? Like, you can give a short synopsis. Do you think they defeat Houston, or do you think they keep it close and ultimately lose to Houston?
Well, I mean, when you look at the standings, they're kind of right there with Houston. So I think that, to me, I think Houston would beat them, but it could be where this series could go, 6 games at best, maybe. Um, but I think obviously we can't ignore that ever since Golden State acquired Jimmy Butler, that's when that team took off, where they went on that long winning streak. I think they won what, I think 10 games straight or somewhere in there in that ballpark. So I'm just saying that they caught, a lot of fire, after the trade deadline. So, this is not, a cakewalk for Houston just because Golden State is a lower seed team. But no, I think that with the combination of Steph and Jimmy Butler,
Mhm.
I think that's a lethal combination. So I think that's going to give Houston a lot of trouble. Even though that Houston, they're one of the best defensive teams in the league, and and really one of the top rebounding teams in the league as well. So and then of course we have to address that, hey, Houston is a super young team. So of
Yep.
course that playoff experience that's going to be advantage for Golden State though. But no, I think that for Houston, this is, they've been playing this well, all season. So I think that they'll be fine. So I just don't think that they are a team that's just going to walk in and take this series by storm. I think this series could, uh, go to 6 or 7 games
Seven
just
games.
based on the
I
advantages that Golden
agree.
State brings. So, but yeah, I think that Golden State, they definitely give them a lot of problems. So, but I just think that with Houston, due to the simple fact that they do have a better overall team, I'm highly confident in Ime Udoka because he led the Celtics to the finals in his first year as head coach, and we know that just by from a coaching standpoint, he's definitely up there for sure. And so I know that he'll have his troops ready to rock and roll. So I have no doubt about that. So I think Houston, they'll be prepared for this series though. But like I said, I think Gold State they get them some problems. So yeah,
Mhm. Yeah, man, even just to analyze their performance, Curry had 37 and Jimmy had 38.
yep.
And these guys are like in their mid to late 30s still playing like this.
Hmm.
It's pretty incredible, to be quite honest. So I like what you said as well. I think Houston, obviously they have the athleticism while Golden State has the experience. Um Jimmy Butler doesn't have a championship, but he has been to 2 finals. And Curry, as we all know, has 4 rings. Draymond has 4 rings. I give the physicality to Golden State. Just having Draymond on the team alone, he's gonna get away with a lot of calls just being Draymond, and he'll continue to play his game, trying to take Alperen Sengun out of that series with his physicality, keeping him out of the post. I do think that Sengun will find his way around that. I think his playmaking adds another layer to this series. While he can make all those around him better while also getting his own. Kind of like, they call him Baby Jokic, so he does play like him most definitely. I think the biggest X factor going into this series for Golden State is Brandon Pajimski. To be quite honest with you, like, a lot of people have him taking a big leap this year, or at least going into next season. I think he would have to show that this year. We know on the title run for Golden State that role belonged to Jordan Poole, and he definitely fulfilled that role, getting the $140 million contract before he got traded after the whole Draymond situation, like how we discussed on the last podcast, of course. But again, I do like what you said, though. I do think it goes 6 or 7 games. I'd be pretty shocked if this only went 5. You think they beat Golden State, man? For real?
I mean, I'm not suggesting like they're just going to like ball them out or anything like that. I'm just going
Mm-hmm.
off of off of talent and what they're capable of doing. So that's why I say it can go to 7 games because of the fact that Houston, they are the second seed. Uh, so they will have home court advantage.
Yes, they will.
And like I said, I think they have better young talented players. And like I said, they are one of the top defensive teams in the league. So is Golden State, and they are one of the top rebounding teams in the league as well. And Ime Udoka is such a wonderful coach. But while with Golden State, um, even though their roster is a tad bit under than Houston, because I think
Mhm.
Houston has better, depth outside of their starting five. But like I said, they have a ton of playoff experience. They have three guys that have championship experience. They know what it takes to get there. So that's why I say they have
They
that playoff
do.
experience with Steph, Draymond, and Jimmy. So you have that as well. So that's why I say I think it'll go to 6 to 7 games, but I'm just giving Houston the upper hand
Mhm.
because because of those points that I pointed out. So, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that Golden State doesn't have a chance of beating Houston. I want to make that clear because that's why I specifically said when you look at the record from second to eight, I mean,
Mhm.
any of those teams could have been a top three seed because I think because let me see, because Houston won 50 games and lost 32, but then Gold State,
Mhm.
I think they won 48 and lost
48.
34. So I'm just saying, and that's just crazy. Like any team from second or third all the way to eighth, anybody could be a top three or top four seed, just by a couple of games. So, it's just not like Houston is like all the way up here and then Gold State's all the way down there. So, but no, I think it could be anybody's series, but I'm giving it to Houston there. So we just have to see how they turn out. Now they could shock me the way they just come out flat, and they're not really playing like the team that we seen them be all season. But like I
Right.
said, with Ime Udoka, I think that he'll definitely have them prepared for sure. That's why I said we seen what he's done with the Celtics during his first year as head coach. So I think that he'll be able to do the same job for this young Houston Rockets team. And so we'll see how it all turns out. But yeah, I think Houston can beat them.
hmm Yeah, man. Again, another great breakdown by you. I did also want to add too that I do think that Houston, they also have championship experience themselves now, adding Fred Van Vliet to the roster. They also even have some more veteranship with Dylan Brooks inside the locker room as well. So I'm really intrigued to see how that is going to play out with the new additions to the roster. I'll be honest, I didn't think that Dylan Brooks and Fred Van Vliet would change this roster that dramatically like that. But to see them become contenders like that, like I think the veterans and the young talent really it was just the best combination. And like they started peaking at the right time. But I do think that the X factor, the catalyst, so to speak, was Ime Udoka 100%. I think adding that voice to the locker room, getting them to play defense the way that they do, accompanied by their athleticism in their offense. It's going to be a pretty interesting series, just to say the least. You're either picking the championship experience with the older guys with Golden State, or you're taking a chance on the younger guys that might have more potential with Houston. And it's giving a reaction to the losers of that play-in out west. Like we did say, the Kings did lose to the Mavericks, 120 to 106. This sucks for Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan, man. Like it sucks. Like that just is awful. Like I
Sheesh,
can't tell
man.
you. Like
Crazy.
mentally, I can't tell you, I can't fathom how that would feel to go to a whole new franchise and still, like, if I was them, I would just say the plane shouldn't even exist anymore at this point, because like I mean they just it's not working for them, you know.
Like he played like DeMar DeRozan played 42 minutes and Zach LaVine played 44. So it's like all that work just went down the drain. Mm.
Seriously, you know, and like
Like
and
what did the
again, want to
Bulls
give
do to him, man? It's crazy.
I agree. And I want to give a shout out to Anthony Davis, who had 27 points and 9 rebounds. Everyone's always trying to crack on AD 23, as I still like to call him. But like he's still playing good, man. When he's healthy, he's still a phenomenal, still a superstar power forward, in my opinion, 100%. And he's down low next to a traditional center now, next to Derek Lively. So if this team was still fully healthy, they still had a Kyrie and with Klay Thompson, and we saw Klay Thompson played great in the play-in tournament as well. Like, with 23 points, he shot great from three. Like, if they had Kyrie with Klay and AD in their defense, like like they're gonna be scary next year. Like, it really wasn't like. I get Nico Harrison. They're still screaming fire Nico Harrison from the nosebleeds, but on paper, it's still a great team, to be quite honest with you. And hey, looking at the Mavericks, where they might go from here, obviously, this puts them in position to face the Memphis Grizzlies. If they go in there and they take that 8th spot from the Grizzlies, who were 48 and 34 this year, with a defensive player of the year candidate and a superstar point guard on the team, it would just be an incredible comeback for the Dallas Mavericks, seeing all the adversity they faced with all the injuries they had, and that they still have even right now. Like, it's ridiculous, you know?
Yeah.
And I guess going forward, you can go ahead and give your pick on that. Who would you pick into win? Because this comes on after us, the Hawks and the Heat. So we're either gonna be watching this really happy or watching this really sad. So, who are you gonna pick in the Mavericks versus the Grizzlies?
Yeah, I think I would have to give it to Memphis because of the fact that, Dallas, even though all the stuff that has happened with, with the Luka trade and of course Kyrie going down with an injury and stuff like that. But I think with Dallas, even though that they have the majority of their players back from injury, because they had a lot of guys injured, so they're starting to get in some bodies back. But I think overall with Memphis and outside of them firing their head coach Taylor Jenkins, but I think Memphis, they are a team that's more well balanced. And it's the same argument I can say for Houston or Golden State that Memphis, they are a very tough team defensively. To your point, they have a defensive of the year candidate and Jaren Jackson Jr., while they also have Edie down in the middle at 7'1" or 7'2". So, that's going to give so they'll be able to match better with Dallas because to your point, they have Anthony Davis and Daniel Gafford and Derek Lively. So Memphis, they're able to size up better compared to to Sacramento. And then of course you have Ja Morant, who's the engine of their offense and stuff like that. So I think that Memphis, they do have more offensive weapons that Dallas is not able to really really give an answer back to, because I think Memphis, they are the better team overall. So I think that Memphis does have it, and of course, as I said before, I'm rooting for Memphis to beat Dallas so that we can get the Kings pick. But like I said, of course, we have our own problems. But no, I think for Memphis, and really be honest with you, it seemed like, and this is just in the first quarter, it seemed like Memphis was had control of the game in the first quarter when they were facing Golden State, because they were up 11-3, and that mainly because they were getting stops and they were able to get some shots at the rim. So, but I think that's where I think that Dallas is going to have some problems, because I said this before after the Luka trade that I do expect Dallas to be a better defensive team with the addition of Anthony Davis, and I think that still is the case. So even though Dallas can't really match up the same way with Memphis offensively, but I still think that their defense will still be there. But I think Memphis is going to beat them because they don't have the same offensive power as Memphis does. So I think that's going to be the X factor there. So we'll see. It could go down to last minute, but yeah, I think Memphis, I think that they're the better team overall. They've been a more consistent team overall because they were a top 5 seed majority of the season, but then of course
They're the
other
2
teams were
seed at
catching
one
up.
point.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so they fell apart short, at the end of the season. But yeah, I think that Memphis, I think they're going to win this one.
Nah, I agree with you, man. Great breakdown as always, most definitely. Like I said, man, like they were the 2 seed at one point. I still think they're cut from that cloth. This might be the craziest Western Conference NBA standings I've ever seen. Watching bad, like really seeing all the records, like 48 and 34 is the 8th seed. Are you serious? Like almost won 50 games. And they're the 8th seed. Like, stop it. Like that. Unless the Western Conference, we think we got to step our game up on the East Coast, man, because we really can't. We can't compete with the West at all. I can't really tell you what it is, man, because it's been like that low key throughout the history of the NBA. The Western Conference always had low key more superstars over there. Of course, the Eastern Conference in the 90s had like the Patrick Ewing, Michael Jordan. Even in the 80s, they had Larry Bird, while the West Coast had Magic Johnson. And but I feel like since like 2010 and stuff like that, like with Kobe and all that, I like the Spurs with Tim Duncan, Kevin Garnett in Minnesota, like Kevin Durant and Westbrook, like Chris Paul, like all these, like they were all in the Western Conference. So I feel like the West has always had like a leg up on the East, but we'll see how it goes. If they do win, they will face the Oklahoma City Thunder in the first round. I give Memphis maybe. I mean, I would say maybe just one game because I do think they have the size to make OKC uncomfortable. They also have the offense as well, accompanied by the star talent with a superstar at the head of the snake with John Morant. He'll face off with SGA. SGA has played incredible defense this year at the point guard position, so it'll be pretty cool to see them go one-on-one for the most part. You got Desmond Bane, of course, on the Memphis side, but most importantly to me, the most intriguing matchup would be Jaren Jackson Jr. versus Chet Holmgren. I would really, really, really enjoy seeing how Chet's going to try to stop Holmgren and what he can do from the 3-point at all 3 levels of scoring, from the midi to the post, and Chet can play defense himself. So I really look forward to that. I really hope, now that I think about it, I really do hope that Memphis does get it done, because I would like to see like that matchup for 4, 5, 6 games. And that would really let us know like how good OKC really is this time with this playoff series, just because they would face superstar talent right out the gate with John Morant and of course another star in Jaren Jackson Jr. And like I said, the Western Conference play-in, I do think those matchups are a little bit more like intriguing. I do think the Hawks can beat the Heat tomorrow. Of course, I want to say they're gonna beat the Heat tomorrow. I'm gonna say that. I'm gonna scream it all day. If I want to
Yeah.
continue to have some NBA basketball going down in my local city, I must continue to cheer for the Hawks. But yeah, I'm in the play-in. Even as we end on the topic, I like the play-in. It was added not too long ago, and it had faced a lot of criticism when it first came into play, especially before it first, actually took place, when it first came into inception of an idea. Most people thought they only introduced it because, if people remember, the Lakers and the Warriors, like they were both like the 9th and the 10th seeds that year, because they both faced a lot of adversity with their rosters and stuff. And they added the play-in that year just to try to get one of those teams. Because, obviously with LeBron and Stephen Curry in the playoffs, it just naturally adds more ratings and stuff. So I do like the play-in. Me and you are fairly young witnessing all these changes in the NBA. So to actually see something of like this come into play and actually seeing like the kind of impact that it is having on the league, I think it's a positive impact. We saw them add the NBA Cup, now the Emirates NBA Cup. I do like the NBA play, the NBA Cup is called or whatever, because it does give it gave teams who didn't make the playoffs like a playoff atmosphere, even with the NBA Cup and stuff like that. So to see the play-in tournament really give us these kind of do or die matchups, we're getting people who haven't watched the Hawks all year tune in to see, and of course then the one time they do, they get blown out by the Magic, and it sucks. But that lets it raises the stakes exponentially for a game like tomorrow where we have to face the Miami Heat in a series where it's 2-2 already. And we got to see like literally if we can defend home court and stuff. So I do like the play-in tournament. I do think it is here to stay. I'm talking like 10, 15 years. I think we'll just get used to it. Even the old heads, like I'm talking dudes like, 60, 70 years old at this point, will be like, oh, the play-in, this, like this and that. I do think they will just get super used to it. And it's just going to be a part of NBA history at this point. And many people have criticized it. Some consider the games meaningless, in terms of NBA history and stuff like that. And I get it. It's not like it's a play-in tournament MVP. If they ever, if they were like, it'd be crazy if they ever added something like that. But yeah, I do like the play-in tournament. It's keeping my Atlanta Hawks alive, so I must stay grateful. And yeah, man, I did want to end this podcast with one of the discussions that is always extremely subjective across the league. Obviously, we must do it at the end of every season. We have finally reached the end of the regular season. It's pretty crazy how October to April really flew by that fast. I don't want to say it was a disappointing season for the Hawks because we did lose our second best player in the middle of January, but I think we have a lot of building things that we can build off going into the off season. But one of the most important things at the end of the NBA season is of course, the All-NBA team. And me and Garrett just want to give our predictions, or at least our picks for the All-NBA first team, meaning the best players per position in the league that year. If you're on the All-NBA first team, of course, there's second and third team, but every superstar wants to be on the All-NBA first team 100%. So you can give me your starting five first, and I'll give you mine second.
Yeah, so with the East, because I feel like with the East and the West, it's pretty straightforward in a way. But of course, yours may be different from mine.
Mm-hmm.
But for the East, for all NBA first team, in the backcourt, I do have our guy Trey, and Donovan Mitchell in the backcourt. Because of course we know Donovan Mitchell, he's the leader for the Cleveland Cavaliers, #1 overall seed this year. So of course he's going to get a lot of love in the backcourt selection. And then of course for Trey, even though that this I wouldn't call this season a wash because this team was inclining to becoming a top 4, top 5 seed. But due to the fact that we know what his capabilities are as a point guard, and he officially led the regular season this year in assists. So I have to give my man Trey some love. Now, one thing I will say though, I think some people may put Cade Cunningham above Trey. Some people may have Jalen Brunson because he's on a much higher, on a much better team with the New York Knicks for Jalen Brunson there. So that may be why some people may not have Trey as first team, all NBA in the East. But I think for Trey, just to the simple fact that I think that he's the better overall point guard between Cade Cunningham and Jalen Brunson. But I think that you can make a side case for Trey. And honestly, I'd be kind of shocked that Trey doesn't make all NBA team at all this year. But I think that you can definitely make a case for him to be all NBA first team. So you never know. So that's what I have in the backcourt. Now in the front court, I do have Jason Tatum, Giannis, and Karl Anthony Towns in the front court. Jason Tatum, we know that Jason Tatum is one of the best players in the league right now, top 5 player. And of course, he has the Celtics as #2 overall seed in the East.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, we have Giannis. We know that he's a dominant big man at his position. We know he's an MVP, a Defensive Player of the Year. So he's always going to be there. And then of course, and then for center, Karl Anthony Towns. I really can't name a center in the East that has outplayed Karl Anthony Towns this year. Yeah, you could say Joel Embiid, but I mean Joel Embiid hasn't really had much of a season this year. I think at best he could make all NBA, third team, at best, but I don't think that he's done anything to say that he should make all NBA first team this year. So I think that's where it's at with that. Um, and then for the Western Conference, like I said, this one was pretty easy. So for the West in the backcourt, I have SGA and Luca in the backcourt. We know
Yep.
SGA is literally like another top 5 player, and same goes for Luca as well. And Luca, we know what we know what he does on the court and things of that nature. But of course, when he got to Los Angeles, I think he's tremendously helped that team become a lot better, because the Lakers, they are a top 3 seed in the West, and I think a lot of that has to do with the production between Luca and LeBron. They've been able to click with each other so quickly, and it's made the team overall better. And just imagine what this team can do when they go out and add more pieces to the group this offseason, and then come back and run it back again before LeBron finally calls it a career. But who knows? He may, play for another year or two. Just depends on how this team goes when they run it back with a different roster. And for the front court, I do have Kevin Durant, even though he had a down year this year with the Phoenix Suns, because they didn't make the play-in, they didn't make the playoffs, and they have a lot of problems. But of course, Kevin Durant is one of the best scorers of all time this league has ever seen. So of course, he's always going to be there. And then of course, we have LeBron James. I mean, nothing enough said. There's nothing really to address on that. It's LeBron James. Yeah, so it's LeBron James. So there's nothing to discuss. And then last but not least, Jokic. I mean, there's not another. I mean, he's literally the best player in the league, and he ended the season as being as a matter of fact, he became the first center in NBA history to average a triple double. So he fits that category along with Russell Westbrook and Oscar Robertson. So that's why I say it was pretty straightforward. So those are the players that I have in the East and the West as all NBA first team this year.
Yeah, man. Just want to make sure, like, can you hear me good? All that?
Yeah.
Got you. Awesome. Got you. Thank you, brother. I appreciate you. Yeah, man. Yeah. So for the East, we're actually gonna agree for the most part. I did have Trey from my his starting point guard, only because I still thought he played really good this year individually. I thought, just leading the league in assists the way that he did. That's the primary but I mean, obviously, like, it's the primary job of a point guard, but I think that it's the way that he did it, like, it's the way that he generated his points. He had multiple 20-20 games this season, like the only point guard to do so. And even versus the Lakers, he had like 31 points and 20 assists. So to you really have those kind of performances over and over, really shows you the kind of player he is, and it's still becoming. I get he's still maturing here and there, but I still think that for him to be 26 years old and show this kind of level, especially like now that he's getting the actual supporting cast needed for him to lead the league in assists, because before this year, he came in second like 3 years in a row. So all he ever needed was a better supporting cast to finally get him over that hump. And I think that's finally happening now. For the shooting guard in the Eastern Conference, I was going to go with Jaylen Brown, only because, I mean, they are the 2 seed. And like, I like what Brown brings on both sides of the ball. I do like Donovan Mitchell. He is to me, he is a superstar caliber player, even though like he'll only average around like 23 points, like 24 points. Like, I think it's how he scores on the floor, how he'll come through in the clutch. So for me, Jaylen Brown and Donovan Mitchell are kind of interchangeable at the 2 spot. For me, the small forward, I was going to go at Jason Tatum 100%. I think he's the best small forward in the Eastern Conference. Power forward, I was going to go with Giannis Antetokounmpo of the Milwaukee Bucks. Still played great this year. Pretty sure he averaged 30 this year. It's just the Bucks went through some adversity. Also, on a side note, I want to give a shout out to Damian Lillard, who apparently he recovered from the blood clot. It's unprecedented recovery. He's actually been cleared to play now after having damn near like the same injury Victor Wembanyama had. Not like in the shoulder and stuff. I think his was in his calf. But for him to come for him to come back the way that he did, like, even the doctors said it was a miracle. So to want to go back to the court, not just relax and sit at home. Like, these guys get paid millions regardless. The money's guaranteed in the NBA. So he really wants to play. Obviously, Damian Lillard is now 35 years old, Damian is, and he's trying to get that ring. This is his best opportunity to get one with another superstar teammate on his team. So I just want to give a shout out to Damian Lillard, who also, he could have been an all-NBA guy himself this year if he didn't get signed with an injury.
That is true. Yep.
I think Damian was also still having a pretty good year himself. Absolutely. So I want to give a shout out to Damian, but I do have Giannis as the power forward. In the center, I agree. I do think it is Cat. I thought Cat was the best center in the East this year with the Knicks. Really lit a fire under him, getting traded from Minnesota the way that he did. They got him on a brand new contract. So it's going to be cool to see him just have another era on another team like that. He's still young enough where he can have his full prime with the Knicks. He's not even 30 yet. He's 29, turns 30 next fall. So it's going to be pretty cool to see him just, be 31, 32 next to Jalen Brunson and see what they can do with the next 2 to 3 years. I do think they have a championship window, having 2 superstar caliber players on the roster. I do consider Cat to be honest this year. Played great. He was in great shape. You can see it on the court. He's super ripped this year with his physique, his arms. He's just super, like, you can just tell he's really taking his career way more serious. You can tell people used to meme Cat and stuff like that. But it's cool to see him really see himself as a dominant center now with the New York Knicks and with the Western Conference. Same here for the most part. I did have Luka in SGA because, you can't have 2 point guards for the most part. And, of course, SGA does play the 2 guards sometimes if they have Caruso in the game. And I was going to go with SGA and Luka as my 1 and 2. Now, for the small forward, it's LeBron. He's probably gonna get chosen. As I look at the Western Conference, I don't see anyone, because the 1 and the 2 seats are OKC and the Thunder. No one, OKC and the Rockets. No one from those 2 teams are taking the starting small forward spot from LeBron James. The Lakers came in at the 3rd seed this year. So I do think LeBron is going to lock it up. He played great this year. He averaged like 24 points, 8 rebounds, with like 7.8 assists. At 40 years old, I might add. So it honestly breaks my heart. I was at work today thinking about, it breaks my heart to see him be 40 years old. Man, I remember when he was 25 years. He was my age when he signed the contract in Miami, to get started. So to see him, that was 15 years ago, man. I can't believe that, bro. Almost 20 years. And he's still, some players don't even last a decade.
20, because he came in the league in 2003.
2003.
22 years, yeah. So a little over 2 decades.
It's ridiculous. His kids have literally grown up. Year after year after year. They lived in Cleveland, they lived in Miami, they lived in Los Angeles. Seriously, but just had to say all of that because to see him get an all-NBA first team selection at the age of 40 is truly remarkable. So gotta give a shout out to LeBron. I'm gonna miss him when he's gone. I've loved him his entire career, even when Cleveland was sending Atlanta home in the Eastern Conference Finals. And I didn't get to see Michael Jordan, so this was my closest thing to that, of course. So really happy I got to see him play, from 24, 25 on and all that, when I could really start paying attention to basketball. In the power forward for the Western Conference, because this one, for me, there's superstars in the West still, with AD still, even Jalen Williams from OKC, they did finish as the 1st seed. So, and I could see why maybe a person, I think he'll definitely be all-NBA 3rd team, all-NBA 2nd team, something that for sure. Jalen Williams, but I'll probably agree with you, man. I'll probably pick Kevin Durant. He still played great this season. If not Kevin Durant, I'll say Jaren Jackson Jr. If I had to pick someone who made the playoffs, but if I had to just pick straight up, I would still pick KD. I think he played really good this year. And yeah, I mean, everyone knows who the center is. Obviously, for the West, it's gonna be Nikola Jokic, 100%. He literally finished as the number 2 MVP candidate. I say number 2. He could still easily win the award, but most people around the league this year, at least, and I feel it's partly because they want a new MVP. I don't think 32 points with 5 rebounds and 5 assists should trump 32 points with 13 rebounds and 10 assisted games. So I still think if Denver was like that 1 seed, if they were the number 1 seed, I still think Nikola could walk away with the 4th MVP by the age of 30. So just, not sending shots at SJ or nothing like that. I think, I still think Nikola could take home the MVP, but that's just my 2 cents on it, of course. But who am I? But yeah, man, like, that was the All-NBA. Again, it's really subjective, most definitely. I still think that Trey could make it, even with his team being in the 8th seed, fingers crossed, being in the 8th seed this year. He did what he was supposed to, man. As a point guard, that's primarily his role, to obviously facilitate, and he did that even with his team struggling. You're still leading the league in assists, so I think Trae Young can average 13 assists a game if it gets to the point where the roster, if they're consistently making shots every single night to the point where they can be a 4th seed or a 5th seed or a 3rd seed. I think Trey could absolutely, especially if he sacrificed more of his scoring, 100% average like 20 points and 14, 13 assists a game easily. Yeah. But yeah, either way, like we said, the All-NBA is really subjective. I like both rosters. I do think both rosters are justified, seeing how all 10 players have performed this year. Of course, the oldest one is LeBron at 40, like I said. So it still blows my mind. Like, people aren't really going to appreciate that until he's gone. And it's easy to say that, but when you're telling your kids, when your kids go back and they look at the Basketball Reference or NBA 2K50 or whatever, and they go back and they see a throwback team with LeBron on it, and they see his age and the numbers, like he was from 18 years old to 42, whatever. It's just astronomical. I love LeBron James. It's going to be a sad day when you sit at home and you get that ESPN notification that he has officially announced as his final season. And, man, that's going to be a crazy season, man. Absolutely. Yes, but as of right now, of course, he's getting ready for the playoffs. In my opinion, I do think that is the most entertaining series in the first round, the Lakers with the Timberwolves. I like the firepower on both sides. I do like Luka and Anthony Edwards. I just really look forward to that. And that too, y'all get ready for our playoff coverage, just riding to the series by series, game by game, and just can't wait for that. But that's it for me tonight. Unless you got anything else, Garrett, I'm done. Just really can't wait to talk about the playoffs, man. So we're finally here. Like I said, the regular season flew by extremely fast, and this is the best time of the year when the real hoop fans come out. And yeah, man, that's it for me, brother.
Yeah, that's it. The playoffs are technically here, so we're just waiting for the play-in to wrap up, but that will be very, very soon. And so after that, then we'll be able to really, get into, more depth with the playoffs and how teams match up and talk about teams making adjustments, all that kind of stuff. So it's definitely going to be a lot of fun. But yeah, Thank you guys for tuning in with us, hanging out with us, and yeah, we always appreciate your love and your support. We really do.
Of course, like, comment, and subscribe. Playoffs start this Saturday. Y'all know we go live every Thursday, so come back to our reactions, watch some playoff basketball, and God bless y'all, most definitely.